Namaskar. The crucial aspect of hair transplant design men, part 4 out of 5. This is the author's method of designing of anti-hairline, the practical guide to hair transplantation. The part 1 was the tropical zones of scalp. Part 2 tutorial was for the anti-hairline. Part 3 was the temporal triangle, mid-scalp, vertex coverage, and this is the part 4 where I'm going to make like this is the part 4 and I'm going to show you my method of designing of the hairline, anti-hairline for men. A single parameter of 8 centimeter with narrow range of flexibility plus minus 1 centimeter can mark all important landmarks of anti-hairline by taking reference point at glabella. This is the glabella, this is the mid-frontal point, this is the frontotemporal point, and this is temporal peak point. So these are the three important landmarks which are needed to make the anti-hairline. And they are basic principles which everyone has to follow, and also it depends on the surgeon's experience and how he visualize for the future when the hair will grow, how this anti-hairline will look. In my previous tutorial I explained the important factors for the anti-hairline. Whatever hairline you make, it should look natural. It should not give a transplanted look. It should not be too low and it should not be too high. And the shape of the hairline should mimic the curvature of the forehead. Also, ethnic variation should also be considered and the patient's choice. So these so many factors are to be considered. Androgenic alopecia is an ongoing process. If you consume too much of the hair follicles in anti-hairline, then you will not have the donor hair follicle to cover the rest of the scalp for the future. This article was published in Journal of Cutaneous and Aesthetic Surgery, which is a peer-reviewed journal. The basic principle of my method is you need to understand the face is a 3D structures, and when you make it 2D means when you unwrap the face, the nail pattern hairline, which usually is W shape or M shaped, whatever you call it, if you in three-dimensional, it converts into a rectangle. Let's understand how it happens. This is the 3D face. By animation and keeping all the points fixed, it was converted to 2D, and you'll be surprised to see that 3M structures got transformed into a rectangle, or you can say 2 square. So this is the secret of anti-hairline, because we know that beauty doesn't lies in the eyes of beholders. Beauty lies in the mathematics. The beauty lies in maintaining the proportion of one body part to the another body part. So that proportion has to be maintained, and that's almost mathematical, and there are the many Fibonacci sequence and the pi concepts following that. Now that was what I explained in that animation. 2D, when convert to 3D, it becomes M shaped, and when you convert again to 2D, it becomes a rectangle. That was the important thing. The method and material, the instruments, flexible basing tape, and the skin marker. These are the only two things you need to make the anterior hairline. Let's understand. First of all, we take the point glabella, one point in between the eyebrow, that is the most important reference point. From here in the vertical lane, you take the mid-frontal point. In previous tutorial, I told you that there are many criteria. One criteria is 7 to 10 centimeter. Another is the forefinger. Third is the where the vertical and the horizontal surface of the scalp meets. So that is the trichion or mid-frontal point. Usual range given is 7 to 10 centimeter, which is a very broad range. If you are a novice surgeon, it becomes difficult whether to keep 7, 8, 9 or 10. So 8 centimeter I took plus minus 1. So 7 centimeter or 8 centimeter you can take. Here we are taking the 8 centimeter. Then this point is B or the mid-frontal point. From glabella point, this we take 2 point D and D dash on the lateral canthal point. We call them the lateral canthus point. This distance is fixed 8 centimeter. So you got point at glabella, you got point at the lateral canthus. So these are the two important landmarks, and after taking this landmark, you mark for the frontotemporal point. You need frontotemporal point is basically intersections of two lines. One line is from lateral canthus point 8 centimeter in the frontotemporal region, and one another you use from mid frontal point 8 centimeter in the frontotemporal region, and where the both the two line intersect is your mid frontal point. My dear friends, I know it's difficult to understand. Even I took almost a year to understand how these points are almost nearly fixed at 8 centimeter, but you must use a flexible ruler, and this flexible ruler will help you in taking these points correct. Glabella, midfrontal point, then both side 8 centimeter lateral canthus point. Then from lateral canthus point 8 centimeter into frontotemporal region, two lines are taken. One we are taking from the lateral canthus 8 centimeter, then another we are taking from mid-frontal point horizontally 8 centimeter, and where the point of intersection is a frontotemporal point. Repeat on the same thing on the opposite side. So you got this. Now we take the temporal peak point. Usually this is on the line making frontotemporal point and the lateral canthus point from here 5 centimeter. Why 5 centimeter? Why it is not 8 centimeter? Why it is not in the midline, which I'll explain you. So this is what I explained you. Now this is the 5 centimeter which I told you on the line joining frontotemporal point and the lateral canthus point. 5 centimeter from frontotemporal point you are taking temporal peak point, or I call it here as D point. So why? Let us see what happens when you convert this rectangle and you divide into two halves. This middle line where it goes, watch it carefully, it slides down. So it's more than the 50%. And we calculated it comes around 5 centimeter. That is the reason we took temporal peak point from mid-frontal point 5 centimeter, a line joining frontotemporal point and lateral canthus point. Now we have done the study of 431 cases. The average distance from midline to glabella was 7.9 centimeter. The average distance from glabella to lateral canthus point was 8 centimeter, and distance from lateral canthus point to mid-frontal point to frontotemporal point was 8 centimeter, and the average distance from frontotemporal point to temporal peak was 5 centimeter. These were our observations, and out of this total 408 patient accepted the line whatever we designed, and 23 patient asked for a minor change or corrections as per there. This is our observation which I explained you. Now these are the distances. Now let's see and evaluate whatever point we have taken as per my method. Do they follow the basic concept of designing the entry hairline? Like one is the mid-frontal frontal point should be lower or at the same level of frontotemporal point, that we did the study in all cases, and in every case this point frontotemporal point has always been little higher than the mid-frontal point. Then another criteria is that frontotemporal point should lie in the lateral canthus, and we have done this, and that point lies always in frontotemporal point if you follow this method. Another third criteria was that the distance between the mid-frontal point and temporal peak point should be less than 3 centimeter, and that was also confirmed in our all the cases. Now why 8 centimeter, why there is a fixed distance? It really becomes difficult. I discuss for years and years with many senior hair transplant surgeon, and it was hard for me to explain. Probably my explanation was insufficient to make them the to make to explain them the my method. So let's understand this physics or mathematics. If we take 2 point on the surface which is flat 8 centimeter, but if we take 8 centimeter distance on a curved surface, the two end point distance in linear will be less. Again, I am explaining. On a flat surface, this is 8 centimeter long. If you put a ruler, it will be 8 centimeter. But if you take 8 centimeter using a flexible scale or a string, the distance between the 2 point, the linear distance, not curved. This is the curved distance and this is the linear distance. Supposingly this is the D. If you cross this to this will be 10 centimeter, and if you cross 1 point directly to here, it will be 8 centimeter. And we know that when you are riding on a road which is curved, you cover a long distance, and many times you want to take shortcut, then you go straight. So this is the very important point to understand, that flexible ruler we are using, and the forehead is a curved structure. So when you are taking distance of 2 point on the curved surface, the distance in linear motion will be less. There will be the lag, and whatever this lag, the difference between will be because of the curvature. If it is more curved, the distance will be more. If it is flatter, the distance will be less. So this is the biggest advantage of my method, that the distance between the 2 point will vary as per the curvature of the forehead. So you need not to take any variation as per the shape and the size of the forehead or the skull. That curvature will automatically be transferred in your anterior hairline. So these were my few cases which I did following the same concept absolutely and strictly. All those 8 points, all 8 centimeter was taken, and the results were quite aesthetic, and this concept I am following from 2013, almost 8 years, and I did not regret any time. But of course nowadays the distance between the glabella to mid-frontal point is reducing because we have more number of donor hair follicle, as I extract from the extra scalp donor area. So this distance you can reduce, but rest of the distance remains almost the same. So the advantage is it gives a skeletal framework of anti-hairline with the minimum need for visual imagination and experience of the surgeon. It automatically takes care of the curvature of the forehead. Patient choice and the surgeon's artistic criteria can very well be incorporated, because once you make a framework, it is easy to alter, but that alteration will be in the proportion. So you are not disturbing the proportion, means the ratio between one point to the another point. The internal division of hairline described as transition zone, this is fine zone, micro and macro irregularities remains the same as described by the Shapiro and the others. In my previous tutorial on hairline, these things has been explained in detail. So I know it is difficult. I'll be more than happy if you send me the queries to understand this complicated system, but once you start following, I'm sure it is very easy system to follow. You just need a flexible ruler, like this flexible ruler. You just need, you have to take distance on the surface attaching to it, and then you need a just a pen, skin marker pen. These are the two things just to make aesthetic hairline, and the experience and the visualization of the surgeon doesn't is not needed to mark it correctly. So now my fifth part of tutorial is 5. It will be on the applied aspect, in which I am going to discuss the case studies and in detail the all the aspect. I'll sum up and explain you that presentation was done in HairCon 2021. Thank you. Thank you very much.